Okay, so at this stage we've probably got our basic buttons in place, and we've started kind of testing the functionality, and it seems to work fine. But what we're going to do in this video is we're going to look at, just delve a little bit deeper in terms of button states, what they are, things that we need to be aware of whenever we're modifying them. So at the minute, last time I was in the project, I kind of something like a little bit similar to this. My buttons were a little bit different. So I had a start, I had a how to, and I had a quit one. So with each of these buttons, whenever you select them, if you take a closer look at the right hand side inside the UMG editor, you'll notice there's kind of three subsections inside the appearance, inside style, that we need to be aware of. So the first one being normal. So this is your normal button layout. So this is just before any interaction takes place with it. This is how it sits in the game world, how it sits on screen. The next one underneath is hovered, which kind of is self-explanatory. Well, so this is the version of the mouse that appears whenever you hover over the top of it. And then the last one being the press state. So the press state really doesn't appear on screen for very long. It's a very quick, especially if someone just clicks very fast on it. It just appears for like a split second. Now, one of the main issues that people run into in Unreal is they'll set up their normal state of their button, and then they won't set up the other ones afterwards, so they'll just ignore the other ones afterwards. So try and get in the habit of setting these all at the same time, or be aware whenever you're testing it exactly what's going to happen. So in terms of setting them and setting the button states, my first piece of advice to everyone, and this kind of goes in line with how the module's been delivered to you and how you guys have been kind of told to kind of plan this stuff, is you have to plan this. And that's why it's super important. Like, I very much kind of work in Unreal all the time, but I never make anything in Unreal without planning it out on paper first. So I would strongly recommend that you follow the guides that you've been given in the ICA and the guides that you've been given in the weekly tasks. Make sure you do your flowcharts. Make sure you spend a bit of time planning out everything, because once you have it all planned out and you come into the next stage of implementation, it's going to be 10 times quicker. So if I was to look at a set of buttons, which I'm going to implement now, I would want to have a very clear idea and a set of graphics in Photoshop already pre-made for how my button's going to look normally, how it's going to look hovered, and then how it's going to look pressed. Now, sometimes in Unreal, depending on how you make your graphics, you can use the built-in features in Unreal to kind of apply something similar to this press state. So for my normal, I want to make sure I've got the buttons that I can bring in. For the hovered, I want to do that. And then for the press, I'm probably going to try and set it up inside Unreal with like a tint or some sort. So from there, once you get that set up, the next thing we need to worry about is implementing it. So very straightforward. Once you have your button in your widget, you click on it, you move over to the right hand side, and then you modify the property. So remember, you have to modify each of them in order for your button to kind of look exactly how you envision it's going to look. Another thing to pay attention to is these here. So pay attention to the image sizes as well. If any of these image sizes are slightly different than on one above, then what you're going to end up is with a little jitter whenever you go to click on a button or whenever you hover a button. And that's not what anyone wants whenever they're developing it. So real quickly, if I just pop back into Unreal. So at this stage, I've got my UI second menu. It's kind of set up here. I've got these buttons in place, but they're not the nicest. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the text, because it was kind of like a placeholder anyway. And I'm going to start bringing in some graphics where I can use. So I'm going to import in some graphics that I've got saved on my computer. So again, there's different ways you could do it. Remember, you can go on the import button if you want. I'm just going to click and drag these ones because I know exactly where they're saved. Okay, so I've got 6 buttons in total that I want to bring in. If I click and drag them in here. So these are the ones that I want to do. So like I kind of showed inside the PowerPoint there, I want to have my base state for each button, and then my hovered state, and then my clicked, I'm probably going to kind of modify as we're working on here. So from here now, if I can click inside my second menu, I want to click on this button, and I want to come down into say the normal mode. And now you'll notice that if I click on this drop down, I can get a list of stuff that I can add in, and this is where it's starting to put in. So I've got my start button in here. I can click to add it in. So you notice at the minute it's set to auto. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to modify this box a little bit. We can change this later on. So from there now I'm going to import in my next one, which is how to. So how to 1. And for my next one, I'm going to do quit. And I know that it's going to be quit 1. So again, I'm just going to modify a couple of things here because I just want them to use up a little bit less space. There we go. So if I was to hit compile now and play, you'll notice the buttons display fine on screen, but we're going to encounter a problem as soon as we do this. So as soon as we hover over, because I've not set the hover states of any of these buttons, they're defaulting back to the kind of Unreal default hover state, which is a tiny button, which is absolutely useless to everyone. So from here, I'm just going to quickly pop in. So I'm going to go with start 2. So that's going to be my hover for that. I'm going to go to how to 2, and then for quit, I'm going to set it to be quit 2. If we hit compile and we play now, you can see now this is looking a lot nicer. But if I click, we get the same silly thing that we got before. And the reason for that being is we haven't set up that final state. So we haven't set up that kind of press state for any of these. So from here we can knock these back, go into pressed. But for this one, we're going to do something a little bit different. So kind of like I said, you can kind of utilize some of the stuff that's already built in Unreal. So I'm going to go with so I'm on the quit button here. So I'm going to go with quit 2. But I'm going to give it a tint. So you can see now what it's done is it's applied a tint on the other bits of the button. So basically on the grey bits of the button, which is fine. So what I'll probably do is I'll probably set this back to be quit 1. Now I'm just going to change this color to make it a little bit darker. I'm just going to kind of grab this color here because I don't trust myself to remember it. So I'm just going to copy that. And now I'm going to set up the next ones to be the same. So remember, we're going into the press state for this one. How to 1. And I'm going to give it a tint. And then we're going to do the same for start. So start, into the press state. I'm going to set an image for it. And now we're going to give it a quick tint as well. So compile, play. So you can see now this is working a lot nicer. So it's starting to make a lot more sense. We don't get that ugly kind of jagginess that happens. Now you can modify the size of your buttons and stuff here as well. So this is just default using the ones that I kind of dropped in. But we can modify that if you need. But bear in mind whenever you do modify it, like try and change it for all of them. Don't just change it for one and then just leave it because your other ones will get changed as well. So from there that kind of works fine. But what happens now if we want to make like another menu off the back of this menu? So what will we do then? So kind of what I want to do is whenever we click on how to play, I want to do something else. So we know that start's going to take us into, in theory, the game. But how to play is probably going to display like a different widget on screen. So what we can do here is on the how to play, we can create a widget. We can do the same as what we've done before. Add the viewport and make sure to wire that in. So from here, just to see if it works, what we'll do is we'll set it to be the first menu just as a quick test. So we'll hit play. So you see that it definitely is working. But the problem being that we haven't removed the previous menu. Okay, so That seems fine, but what we'll do first is we'll do a remove from parent. And the target is itself. So what's going to happen now is whenever we click on how to, basically meaning how to play, so kind of like an instructions page, it's going to remove the widget that we're on and show another one in its place. Okay, so what we might want to do now is make another widget that's going to be like our how to play widget. So back in here, I'm going to right click, user interface, widget blueprint, UI how to, and on this we're probably going to add in just an image. Okay, so just grab an image. If I can type it properly. There we go. Drop that in. I want to center it. Or actually, I'm going to fully center it. There we go. So now we want to bring an image in the game that we can use. So I've got one here, which is a real basic like how to play from Global Game Jam. So what we'll use is we'll use that. This is a real quick example to show you guys how it works. So we're going to drag this in. It's now in the game, sitting there. And now we can kind of say that I want to use that. Let's just say it was called How to Play 1. So we'll click on here. How to play, oh, would have been better if I had renamed it. There we go. How to Play 1. I'll scale it up so it fills the screen. Now what I want now is I want to add some type of button here, like almost like a back button that's going to let me go back. So obviously this was designed for controllers, but we're going to add a button. Add it down here. So this is essentially going to be our back button. So because I haven't got any text for it, or I haven't got an image for it, I'm going to add some text to it. I'll change that to be back. So now with that button, we need to do a little quick bit of scripting. Okay, so probably just going to, just for good practice, just anchor that to the bottom left. So I'm going to my graph editor. I'm going to say on clicked, remove from parent, target is itself, and we want to create a widget. The widget that we want to make is the menu that we were just in. So that'll be in second menu. We want to add it to viewport, and then we wire that up there. So now in our second menu, we know that we can set it whenever we click on how to play, we want it to bring up that one. So let's have a play through and we'll see how it looks. So these work fine. How to play takes us to this menu, and that takes us back. Okay, so it's a little bit jarring there because what we're doing is we're actually replacing everything on screen because we've got this backdrop. But if we weren't doing that, so if I was to come into the how-to menu and maybe remove that, hit compile and now play, it's just removed that menu and now back is loading up that previous menu. So we've kind of gone off topic a little bit there, so apologies for that, but we've basically run through how we can modify our buttons. So remember to make sure that you set the states for all of them. So set the normal state, set the hovered state, set the press state. From there as well, we've looked at how we can use a button click to remove a widget from the screen and make another widget on screen and then add to the viewport. So in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to try and get this working where we can move around the level as well at the same time. So we'll try and get some cameras in place. So hopefully make this a little bit more kind of interesting, a little bit more dynamic.